and welcome to the Newsx Sunday Guardian Roundtable. Well, this week we're going to be discussing the Gymkhana Club controversy, but also taking a look at beyond it. Because to quote what Veer Sanghvi wrote in his column recently, I think that line really struck me when he said that you cannot make prejudice the basis of public policy. I mean, why is the Gymkhana Club being targeted by the Modi government? Is it just the physical space or is it also the mind space? What Gymkhana Club really represents? Of course, we've heard all the people who are not part of the Gymkhana Club saying that, oh, this is the Lutyens elite, this is the, very privileged mindset. But as Sangvi points out, and so do some of my panelists on the show today, the Lutyens elite, I mean, this government has been in power for the last 10 years. So the new elite is actually the BJP government in power and its cronies and its people, thought leaders, its supporters, its all the right-wing people who empathize and sympathize with the government. Those are the new Lutyens elite. So while Gymkhana Club, if you take a look at the membership, it is actually made up of people from the army, people from the bureaucracy, and yes, some also from private business people, but largely they are honest middle-class taxpayers. Compare that to the people who live around it in the various Lutyens Delhi bungalows and take a call as to who is the new elite and why is this propaganda being spread. Also, is this the end all? Because there are other clubs that are being targeted, from the golf club to the race course. Will Bombay's clubs are going to be targeted, Kolkata's clubs also. So where will this stop and what is the real thought behind it? Is security really the reason? That is something I'm going to be discussing today with my panel. I have with me Ambassador Pavan Varma. He's a former Rajya Sabha MP and an author and also a member of the Gymkhana Club, but someone who's been voicing a very balanced view. He's been saying that every club does admit elites. That is the whole nature of a club, that you admit a certain sort of people. But the membership is open to all. Everybody can apply. And he also questions the point that I had raised, which actually I got from him, is that Lutyens elite is spread not just to Gymkhana Club, but the various government bungalows around it, even the Rashtrapati Bhavan. So where will this stop? That's something I'm going to be asking Pavan to further tell us. I also have with me Yashovardhan Azad. He is a former IPS. He's been the Special Director IB. Again, someone who's been also a member of the Gymkhana Club. And he's been arguing that, why is this a selective dismantling of an institution? And if they really want this space, well, if they want to do it for a larger social equality, excuse, then make it either Gaushala or a shelter for stray dogs or for slummed, develop some rehabilitation for the slum dwellers. Why are they, pushed off to some banks of some Yamuna? Why not right in the center of the city if this is actually an equality drive? And Sandip Ghosh, he's, I think, a member of many clubs, but not Gymkhana Club. So it'll be very interesting to see what Sandip has to say. I have not yet had a debate with him, so I really want to ask him what his point of view and all this is. And for full disclosure, I am also a member of Gymkhana Club. And I think now it's time to, for the members to stop feeling apologetic or, not, because those who are for the club have not held any shows. I've seen anchors who are members of the club but want to tour the government's life are holding shows. People who are not members of the club are, of course, attacking Gymkhana Club. So why are we not defending our own? Also joining is Tehseen, Poonawala, an advocate and someone who has been also talking about... sorry?
I'm also an associate member.
And I was just going to say, an associate member of not Gymkhana, but he's a member of other clubs. So good to get his view on club life. Pavan, I'm going to begin with you first. Can you tell us where you stand on this argument?
Thank you, Priya. You more or less summed up the various sides of the debate. But you see, the government for any leased land is the supreme landlord. And if it feels that it requires particular land for a particular purpose, and land acquisition is not an unheard of phenomenon, it is free to resume the land. But in a particular reaction which has been seen by a lot of people and you were quoting by it, I did say that the reasons for which the government is demolishing an institution which was set up in 1930, 125 years old, they need to be convincing, they need to be genuine, and they need to be something in the larger public interest. Merely the fact that the Gymkhana Club is an elitist club, yes, it is an elitist club. That is an expensive land, yes, it is an expensive land. Yes, can it be redeveloped for other matters, including national security and defense? The government will make its purpose clear, but yes, it can. All land can. But especially where the elite tag goes, I have argued that in that case, the government of India should develop the entire lot of Lutyens Delhi. Lutyens Delhi, in a city where 50% is officially said to be a slum,
Hmm.
has been built and developed on a basis where often an individual family lives in a bungalow of 3 to 5 acres. It could be ministers, it could be members of parliament, it could be senior bureaucrats, it could be armed forces generals, it could be judges. And now, in such a scenario, to target the Gymkhana Club and to say that now suddenly you require it for security and defense purposes seems to me, if possible, avoidable. Uh, the fact of the matter also is that if you take the Gymkhana Club on these grounds, where will you make a stop?
Yes.
There's also the India International Center, there's the Habitat Center, there's Dollygunj, there is Wimbledon Club. I mean, there are clubs all over the country. So that's my essential point, that the government's specific purpose, to which it is entitled, needs to be of a transparent nature which is convincing and which can tell the 80% of the membership of the Gymkhana Club consists of the bureaucracy and of the armed forces. That a particular place which was created for them, like there are other havens for other people,
Hmm.
uh, needs to go with time. They need to be convinced of it. That's the point I made. Yes, the club is not perfect. Yes, the club has been accused of financial mismanagement. Yes, the club has factions which openly wash their dirty linen in public. Yeah, but the management is now with the government. Bring in the reforms that you want. Make it less elitist. Change the mix of the programs. Allow for greater democratization. But to throw the baby out with the bathwater, in my view, is excessive, and I would appeal to the government to reconsider its decision.
Thank you, Pavan, for that opening statement. Yasho, if you would, I've been watching you on various television debates. Also, if you could explain your stand first about Gymkhana Club, and the next round, I'm going to talk to you about the mindset really that this represents.
You see, my first reason which I have given is that ostensibly the ground given is security and defense.
Okay.
Now, Gymkhana has stood there during the times of real turbulence, whether if you see it was the Punjab terrorism, whether it was J&K terrorism, whether it was a parliament attack, and then you had a series of attacks in the country. This was the most turbulent phase. So either the prime ministers were there on one side, or when, and then Indira Gandhi was assassinated and this thing was built. So then they were on the other side. So except Prime Minister Chandrasekhar, all of them were in this particular area. Secondly, the security concerns which they are talking about were thrashed out in a meeting in Gymkhana, I think it's around 2017, in which the SPG was there, the IB was there, everyone was there. And so almost everything was sorted out. And in fact, it was Mr. Arun Jaitley who came for even the inauguration of that swimming pool, when that was constructed after the objections were taken care of. So, this reason given is absolutely does not hold water. Now, what is the need for a defense establishment at this particular point of time and at this particular place? I fail to understand, unless you want to grab the entire area of the PM House complex also, which will be vacated now, with the Gymkhana, and put up another monstrous, government complex. Now that will be drastic and tragic for Lutyens. Second thing is, as Pavan said, I agree with him. अगर क्लब कल्चर से ही नाराजगी है तो सारे क्लब्स बंद कर दो. और आप फिर उसको क्यों भूल जाते हो जो सरकारी क्लब सबसे बड़ा है अशोका होटल, उसका क्या होगा? कॉन्स्टिट्यूशन क्लब है, स्टेट भवन्स हैं, वेस्टर्न कोर्ट है. Tell me, I mean, what are we talking about? There are so many, talking about leases. 60,000 leases are there. Should there be a public, audit of all the leases and then take a decision? What I'm saying is, your decision, you have the government has the power. Definitely. Government also has the power to put Ram Rahim on parole. 16th time, he has gone for about 30 days. That's power. You exercise the power. When you exercise any power, it should be exercised with fairness, discretion. And by the way, even Supreme Court has said कि भाई कोई जमीन का अगर आप अधिग्रहण कर रहे हैं तो कम से कम 7 चीजें हैं जिसका कि आपको कम से कम ध्यान में रखना होगा. Then, this talk about rich versus the poor. I have given very clear suggestions. If you make the whole thing into a Gaushala, which is a national program, all the states are doing, it's fine. If you want to make it as Supreme Court directed stray dog shelter, absolutely fine. Nobody will oppose. Third, if you want to make it a slum rehabilitation center just across the road, race code mein there are series of slums, nobody will mind, or the lowest housing scheme. But you could also do something which is very, very important, and it's a pending proposal for 2 decades. You know what that is? That is that there should be one complex in Delhi where all the highly threatened personages should be put together. That is the ministers and all that. Will even agree? I think that's a brilliant suggestion. And the last point, mismanagement, which Pavan again referred to, is that देखिए mismanage तो हर क्लब में होता है, चाहे वो अब रेजिडेंट वेलफेयर सोसाइटी की है या नहीं है. बिल्कुल सही बात है कि मिसमैनेजमेंट. क्लब के ड्यूज 49 करोड़ इसलिए हुए क्योंकि 2015-16 में वो बढ़ा ग्राउंड रेंट. हाँ, उसके बाद फिर कहते हैं जिमखाना कोर्ट में गई. जिमखाना कोर्ट में गई, कोर्ट में मामला तय था, कोई बड़ी चीज नहीं थी. पिछले 5 साल में जो गवर्नमेंट की कमेटी है वो इस पे डील कर सकती थी, मेंबरशिप का प्रॉब्लम रिजॉल्व कर सकती थी, मिसमैनेजमेंट ऑफ 50 करोड़ था, उसके बारे में भी कर सकती थी. और द लास्ट पॉइंट which I want to say is and put across is that there are certain social spaces in metro. I mean, these are breathing areas where some people can meet, some people, you meet diplomats. Diplomacy doesn't only come in from high commissions and big Hyderabad houses. It also comes in these parleys which various have, with academicians, with CEOs, with various kinds of people, and many of them say also, oh, this is something which I'll take back, things like this. So if you want to destroy a social space in the name of elitism, egalitarianism, well, I mean, it doesn't convince anybody, but you can certainly do. So you can look at it as an elite club or a civic legacy. And many of the capitals are known for these social places, cafes, parks, etc., etc. So I think most unfortunate, this decision of takeover.
Thank you. In fact, this thing is, in fact, there's some YouTube video doing the rounds where someone is saying Gymkhana Club was where CIA people used to meet and hatch plots against because foreign diplomats are seen at the club. I mean, if they want to look at the stories that are really being spun. We also joined by Abhijit, the Iyer-Mitra. He is a commentator, political and social commentator. And in fact, I've been hearing his argument. He's been arguing, apart from many things, also he talks about the lease, saying that it's a perpetual lease. And at any point of the time, the government has a right to revoke. I think you took the property argument, but I'll let you explain it to us. First, Sandip. Sandip, this is not just the Gymkhana. Tomorrow they'll come for Tolly. What will you do?
So, Priya, I don't think you bargained for having me on the program. I proudly call myself... I
invited you. I totally bargained for you.
In terms of I proudly call myself, this is an admission, a club GV. My friends, joke that every time Sandip loses a job, he goes and becomes a club member of a new club. And so I don't want to give you a count of those, but I have written articles on clubs, which has been quoted, Clubs of India, which has been quoted even in foreign people have called me to check. So I consider myself to be a bit of an authority on clubs, if I may quote unquote and say that with some degree of pride. Now, these arguments are very complex, Priya, because, this whole thing has taken the shape of an elite versus non-elite. But within elites, there are different circles. And if you compare with clubs, I'll start with this example, which, I don't know, many of your viewers may not know, in Calcutta, the most elite in that sense of the exclusive club used to be a club called the Calcutta Swimming Club, which never used to accept any Indians as members. Until the first United Front government came in 1967, and there was a minister called Ram Chatterjee. He took a truckload of Santals and attacked the club. And the Santals kind of jumped into the pool, and Ram Chatterjee and his friends raided the bar. And after that, Calcutta Swimming Club was forced to open its doors, and it started taking Indian members. It's another matter. From then to now, there has been a 180-degree shift in not only the means actual demographics, but the social demography of the club. So it's to the extent that many other club members do not want to become members there, and that's a club which is the most expensive entry fee. They have to pay 1 crore of rupees to get into that club. So it's changed. So club definitions also keep changing. In Bombay, you'll find people defending Bombay Gymkhana just the way you're defending this Bombay Gymkhana, Wellington Gymkhana. But Bombay citizens go and criticize, there are a whole lot of Gymkhanas along Marine Line, which have also got concessional land, and their main source of revenue is letting it out for shadis. And that is what the clubs don't have. So you will find Bombay Gymkhana members and other people say that those clubs need to be taken, the government land should be taken back, but leave Bombay Gymkhana as it is. So there are these whole set of things. Now, clubs. So we cannot judge everything, with one yardstick. So here, the moot question, which you said, Abhijit, has raised, I don't know, we are all assuming certain things about the complex, whether the reason is real or not. But this kind of social pushback or political pushback, I think, is very natural. It happens across the world. We have Pavan on the show, and Pavan would agree. There's the Bankipur Club in Patna, which once upon a time used to say Indians and dogs not allowed. But I have written in my article, it's the reverse. Today only dogs are allowed, kind of a thing. It's become it's gone so much down the line. You wouldn't like to go to Bankipur Club from.
So you're talking about the mindset, really, of the.
So these things change. So it is not a question of today's elite may not be tomorrow's elite. At the same people, you may not say that, oh, आजकल हम दिल्ली gym में नहीं जाना चाहते क्योंकि membership पूरा बदल हो गया. So those things keep changing everywhere. Clubs also do. So you have to see it in the context. So the point is whether you're trying to destroy an institution, or if you are, as you're saying, you're trying to take over real estate. These are the different. Again, in Delhi Golf Club, we faced similar threats earlier. And there was Mr. Dharamveera, who was earlier governor of West Bengal, and then I think he was in Delhi, LG or whatever. He went, because he was an avid golfer, he went and saved Delhi Golf Club, and not today. And that was not a BJP days, those were the earlier days. So there is always I saw, people, Bangalore.
So I'll just, I got your examples.
Tehseen,
I'll just
even in Delhi Gymkhana, when I used to be a corporate member, it was the bar was shut for several months because one excise member didn't get elected, CBDT member. So CBEC member, he went and conducted a raid and found for 12 years they'd never taken a bar license. So there is this whole privilege and various things. We have to see each one in that context. Last point is Yash would be having the correct thing. There is exactly the talk in like the PM's office has been created near Sevatirth or whatever, which is supposed to be a high security thing. We don't know whether they are trying to create another high security complex for other people, because security context is changing in 2017 and today.
Tehseen, quickly, what Sandip said, are they dismantling an institution, or are they targeting a mindset? That's the real question really here.
Thank you, Priya, for having me on such an eminent panel with the most non-elite person, Abhijit Iyer-Mitra, the most
Oh,
non-elite
no.
person in the country by far.
By the way,
But
Tehseen, when I told Yasho that Tehseen Poonawala is coming, he said, "ये इधर वाला या उधर वाला?" So you please tell him, आप इधर वाले या उधर वाले?
यश जी प्रॉब्लम है कि इधर वाले मुझे उधर धकेलते, उधर वाले मुझे घर वापसी नहीं करते.
I've spoken with you many times, so that's why I asked.
Thank you, sir.
So
Thank
please
you,
tell us,
sir.
which side are you on?
I'm on the side of India and on the side of the Delhi Gymkhana Club. Look,
इधर वाला है.
either wala. Look, honestly, let's just come to the thing. You can make any argument, it's elite, non-elite, etc. That's not the official reason that the government's put on paper. What the government has put is its defense. So what
Correct.
we say on YouTube or television or Twitter doesn't matter. What matters is the process of law. Now, the process of law is that this is lease, a perpetual lease. You cannot just take it one fine day by saying that there is some sort of a defense mechanism. None of us, Yasji, Pavanji, or any of us want to know what the defense issue is. But the Honorable Prime Minister stayed there for a number of years. Number of Prime Ministers have stayed there. It's not a China, you can just come and take a land. You have to explain why. If you were to do this with a club, just imagine tomorrow Google is investing in India or Elon Musk is investing with a perpetual lease. Can you just come and take over the land this way? As long as the objectives of the clubs are being fulfilled, you cannot do it. Number two, now you come to what is the other thing that's being spoken on social media, that the mismanagement. That's not the reason the government has spoken. But for the mismanagement, the government itself went to NCLT and NCLAT. They got an order in their favor. They should have done the necessary changes. However, I saw the budget of the balance sheet of the last year of the club. It's now in a profit of 9 crores something lakh. So it's actually come in a profit. And further reforms are required, you can do it. You don't have to take away a club. Now, this club has a legacy. If you still want to take away my land, you have all the right, you want to take it, at least talk to me. At least have a conversation with me. At least restore my legacy by telling me, we'll move you here, you can have your process there. You can't just arbitrarily, like North Korea, China, come and say, suddenly there's a security threat, we won't tell you what it is, and you have to leave and we will not bother because you're too elite. That doesn't work. It won't even uphold in court, and therefore the government committed in court, there will be no action taken because the government would have got a tight slap on its face. The fact is that you will have to talk to the members, you'll have to rehabilitate them, the people who are working. This idea of elite, non-elite, let me just go. Why is then all these MPs staying in these big bungalows? I don't even want to go to other offices where the bureaucrats here, two serving ex-bureaucrats here. Why do they get all the facilities? So I mean, are we a country that does not that wants to take away from the haves? Why don't you give halves to more people? I think that's a silly argument. And the last thing that has been finally being spoken about is that there's some illegal activity. Now, please understand, these are all vague terms that we don't know what it is. If you don't define it, you can't. For example, in Sector 16 Noida, you have a film city, which is given for the purpose of media. XYZ Media House is running a media channel. They'll also have a cafeteria. They'll also have maybe a bookshelf or whatever, a library there, a bookstore there, whatever, a gym there. As long as the main objective of that film city is being met, you can't arbitrarily come and say, I'll take this away and I'll break down your media houses.
Yes.
And where does this end? Where does this end? Does this end only at the Delhi Gymkhana? Does this end at Film City, Noida? Abhijit will tell you, and he's an expert on defense. Today, you can target sitting in China. I mean, when we targeted Rawalpindi, Nurka, we didn't even cross the LOC. Targeting can happen over distance. So you have to be prepared for it. And you must have a conversation and restore the legacy. That's all I'm saying. If you do this, it'll be a very bad precedence if the government bulldozes and takes land away. It can't work like that in a democracy, and I don't think the laws will allow it.
See, this is the point, Abhijit. I heard you talking in another debate, I think maybe with Barkha, that about the perpetual lease. And you said, it is a lease and there is a clause where the government can take away for various reasons in terms of security. But, when the club was bought, there was no sale deed, but there was a perpetual lease deed. There are so many properties that are leasehold. Half of Noida is leasehold. And tomorrow they'll come and take away our houses. I mean, what is the government trying to establish with this precedent?
So
Abhijit.
first, let me segue into what Tehseen said.
Okay.
I think it was his beloved party leaders, Shri Jawaharlal Nehru ji and Miss Indira Gandhi ji, who brought in the first amendment, which completely took away our property rights. So none of us actually have the right to property in this country at all. And according to him, they were both highly democratic leaders, number one. And the clauses being used right now are those very same clauses. It's not the Land Sealing Act, but they were also enacted by Shri Nehru ji and
Indira Gandhi.
Number one. Number two, we need to understand a lot of what is being said applies to private property as opposed to lease. Even private property in this country is not sacrosanct. In this case, it is a lease. Now, when you invoke security, it is government invoking eminent domain where it can take back any land, private or public land, for whatever reason. In case of Gymkhana, it is a perpetual lease where the Supreme Court has mentioned certain categories. Now, even under those, and there are 4 categories, only 2 are relevant to this. The first is there should be no breakage of the lease terms. And the second one is that the tenant has upheld all the required rules and things like that.
Right.
Now, rules, sure enough, the government took over. There are now 2 management committees. There is the official management committee and there is the non-official management committee, which people seem to think is the actual committee kind of thing. The second issue is in terms of breakage of the terms of the lease. Now, yesterday, Major Atul Dev, he showed me a very interesting document. It is not only the main building which is classified as heritage, it is the main building and the campus which is classified as heritage.
Yes.
Which means every single cottage that has come up, every single building that has come up, every single tennis court that has come up since after 1918 is a violation of the original terms of the lease. The government has totally listed a total of 53.
But it was leased as a club, no? It was not leased as in terms of
which
a
doesn't
heritage
matter.
site.
Which doesn't matter. If the campus is listed as heritage, that is 53 times that the heritage clause has been violated. See, if a lawn is declared heritage, you can't just dig up the lawn, right? Now, the thing is, the government has cited none of this. Their order is very clear. It is security.
Right.
Security means there is no appeal to it. Even in the Supreme Court, what will the Supreme Court say? They'll say what they said for the Rafale, give us the security rationale in a sealed envelope. And that's it. Once national security is invoked out here, there is no this thing to it. Now, lastly, before I finish, if you'll permit me to say this, Tehseen is right. I'm not an elitist at all. I am a Marxist of the Groucho Marx variety.
Yes.
And to quote the immortal words of Groucho Marx, I don't want to be the member of any club that will have me as its member.
Okay.
Just
That's a nice one. I'm going to quickly go in for a break and come back and get your rebuttals, but after a very quick break. Hello and welcome back to the Newsx Sunday Guardian Roundtable. We are taking a look at the case of Gymkhana Club, but also if we can go a bit beyond it, we've articulated the pros and cons and what the government's case is versus the members' case. But Pavan, this whole concept is, are they after a mindset? Because, if you just see the places that are being targeted, whether the names being changed, there is an attempt to do away with not just the physical space, but the mental space also.
You see, the government being, as I said, the supreme landlord on all cases where there is a perpetual lease, the government's right to terminate it is not being questioned. I believe that right is inherent in the agreement. The question is about its desirability. We are talking of that. And if that attempt to implement what is inherently within its powers has been motivated for other reasons than what has been ostensibly stated, then those who are being affected by the decision, and I don't believe it's only the membership of the Gymkhana Club.
Right.
I believe it is a city. I believe there is a concept. I believe there is a certain form of ideology and practice involved here. Then they have a right to raise questions and seek greater transparency. That's the nub of the matter for me. And let me say to you that I have no doubt whatsoever. I have a book called Becoming Indian, The Unfinished Revolution of Culture and Identity, where I articulate how the leading members of those associated with the previous colonial regimen were the chief inheritors of power. And they did become the first chosen lot for these clubs. But we can assess whether clubs have changed over a period of time. For instance, talking of Kolkata, the Bengal Club, which was earlier Macaulay's residence, had till the late 1950s, if I'm not wrong, actually a board which said dogs and Indians not allowed. Now, it's unacceptable in a free country that none of the members thought that they should remove it. In Gymkhana Club, Priya, I'm just quickly mentioning one or two examples. In the early 90s, I went to the club in the evening wearing a silk kurta, pajama, and closed Peshawari sandals. And I was told by the guard who knew me well at the entrance that you will need a Jawahar jacket with. So I asked my wife to bring it there. But then I saw people in jeans, t-shirts, and gola shoes being allowed to go in, whereas I thought I am formally dressed as per Indian cultural tradition.
Correct.
And I did a dharna right there on the spot at the entrance. The secretary of the club met me. The next day, I think it was Admiral Tehliani, who was the president of the club. He wrote to me saying, you have a valid point. Please join the dress committee to see how we can democratize the rules. And the club rules have been changed. I mean, Chidambaram wearing a veshti with a gold border and a shirt is perfectly, in my view, it's a formal dress. People from the Northeast, India is a country of sartorial diversity. So it should not be insular. It should learn to live in a democratic and far more culturally egalitarian India. Both, not only Gymkhana has changed. If you go to Tolly today, you still can't go in a pajama kurta, which may be formal.
No,
so these things
it's not.
These things need to
Mr.
go.
Varma, that's not correct.
Well, I was stopped.
No,
I was stopped.
No. What
I
they
was stopped in
specified
2008 or 9, and I was not wearing a night suit.
No.
Again, I was formally dressed for the evening. So
they promised national dress is national dress is defined. So a general pajama is not allowed and chappals are not allowed.
I was not wearing a chappal. I was wearing a.
No, you were not. But I think all these clubs specify this now very clearly.
Yes, so it's much better. Sandip, it's much better in a country like India that you prescribe an absolute list of don'ts. No bedroom slippers, no half shorts, no whatever, no night suit. But you have to allow for the fact that India is not merely the remnants of a certain Brown Sahib culture. Now, if the clubs are making the change, that's good. If the pace of change is slow, please expedite it. As Tehseen said, I think, and rightly, have a conversation. You are running the club now through your own committee. Make those changes. If you were only watching Shakespeare, watch Kalidas. Don't foist it on it, but let there be a conversation.
But all that has happened. A lot of the changes that you mentioned have already happened. Only now the Nehru jacket is probably being called a Modi jacket, but everything else is very much
that kind of thing. So I would suggest that it's not that if the government doesn't have the right. I am making an appeal for the government to exercise it judiciously, keeping in mind the entire gamut of issues involved and the consequences that could be inferred therefrom.
Okay. And this question of elite, Yasho, all this targeting of Gymkhana Club members as the privilege and the elite. Aren't the elite who are the ones who are living around the club? What about those elite who travel in a cavalcade of cars while all of us are standing in lines, waiting, whether it's the petrol pump queues or whatever. I mean, we don't see the cavalcades of the ministers and the reducing. We don't see the various elite practices being practiced by them. And last 10 years, these are the elite. They are the governing class.
The concept of elite arose in France, right? And who was an elite? Elite was a guy who could peddle influence, who was wealthy, who had the power, educated, and things like that. So I would say today Ram Rahim is a great elite. He has 40 crore and he, despite being convicted, he's having a good time. So when you talk about the power of the government, of course, government has the power. Government has the power to release anybody. Remissions, you have people garlanding convicts and all that in Gujarat. You saw that. That is not the issue. Elite. My brother is a 4-time MP, MLA. He's staying in a huge bungalow. So he is not an elite because he is a representative. And I survive on my pension. And just because I speak English, so I become an elite. I mean, I don't understand this kind of, branding. You talked about the mindset. I'll give you the real reason very, very clearly, and Tehseen will appreciate. The question is, Gymkhana is not a voting bloc, number one.
Yes, absolutely.
Gymkhana doesn't donate to party coffers. Gymkhana is not influenced by the propaganda and slogans of any political party. So Gymkhana does not partake of any subsidies. I mean, it doesn't belong to that 80 crore. So your existence is, despite the government. So, they don't need you for anything because you're of no use to them. And that's a very practical thing, I would say, for a politics group, a political group. Surjit Bhalla said a very nice thing the other day, and he was very close to this government. He said, you can, of course, winning elections is fine, but you can't win the economy without doing something concrete. So these kind of things are fine. Absolutely, government has the power; it can do anything. I even know that it's going now. But in terms of fairness, in a democracy, people have a question to ask. When you're acquiring something, what are you acquiring it for? And I've given, being a few years in service and dealing with VIP security, I know a little bit what is the requirement for security and defense establishment and all that. So if you are clear about it and you explain to the people, people will be with you. But if you really want to take it over, yes, I suppose no one can do it. And at least Gymkhana cannot do roadblocks and things like that. So it's absolutely fine. I mean, if you take it away.
Which is unfortunately, that is the case. A lot of, members of the club are also going by gentleman rules. We are not really coming out and protesting and all. It's only when we saw all what is happening on social media and on television channels by, people who are not members of the club, the way the members of the club are being painted. I think that is when people have come and started speaking out. But Sandeep, is this then a political move? Forget security and all that. Those are all, may or may not be the case. Let's not argue that. Is this a political move? Will the government gain? It's look at what's happening on social media.
Good part of political move is, you see, because of social media, your cockroach party is out of the news. Delhi people are much more involved about Delhi Gymkhana. I don't see cockroach matches anywhere, although they may be
on
more
the TV debates
over there. But these are all, as I told you, there are various shades of gray. In this particular case, there could well be a political angle. You cannot rule out. I gave you the whole example of that Calcutta Swimming Club, where people jumped in because there was a political angle. When the left front government came, they wanted to show that this institution, bourgeois
is open to all.
institution, etc. No, bourgeois institutions are being destroyed. So exclusivity. So they try to do. But even now, for example, Priya, without taking names of the place, I know of a club where BJP, somebody affiliated to BJP, who was the past governor of 2 states, he was defeated in the elections, and this thing because they said because he had a right-wing affiliation, the club members. So the various kind of appetite goes in, and it's a clubs. But I don't see that at one level there's nothing wrong about it, because clubs are meant to be places like of PLUs, people like us, and who are of a certain mindset. The mindset can change, the culture can change. Again, I give you the example of a couple of clubs, the same club which Pavan was mentioning, Bankipur Club, from there to, and I was mentioned now today, the set has changed, mindset has changed. So who are we to say? We may not go and apply for membership there anymore. So it's that. So these are complex.
So then, what do we do there? See, no clubs, because every club will have a certain criteria, because it is a place for PLU. You find you want to be with people you can actually sit down and have a drink with, subsidized or not. But hang out with the people you can have a conversation with. It's extension of your home at the end of the day.
We can do
no clubs for this government.
No, we can do one nation, one club.
One nation, one club. Keshav Kunj, the club at Keshav Kunj.
That's a good one. That's a
good one. It's a very good one, Priya. But what things have changed, as you said, once when I started becoming members of club, somebody at club I was becoming a member, he said, I take members if I think I can take you home for dinner. If you're good enough for that, then you're a member.
Yeah, it's
Yeah,
I-
but
Except Abhijit won't go
I
have
hope,
dinner with
I hope,
himself.
one second, I have to, this cheeky one, Sandeep, I hope the guy who told you was only taking his male friends home for dinner and no other friends home for dinner. I hope I can take you home for dinner. I hope you're not telling his female friends that. That may get you into a lot of trouble, Sandeep.
a lot of clubs were not allowing, including in your city, Bombay Gymkhana and everywhere, women members were not allowed till Nani Palkiwala made a case.
Yeah.
You know,
Okay.
But
he-
can I just add one line?
Okay, so
Just
yeah,
one line
Tehseen.
before Abhijit. Yeah. Look, Abhijit made a point about this heritage land, etc. Again, the rules of this are very defined. Heritage land, again, does not mean the purpose and the objectives of the club, which is sports or promotion of culture, cannot be done. What it means is the existing structures cannot be destroyed. For long story short, Shah Rukh Khan's bungalow is a heritage bungalow. It can be renovated. You can have a building beyond it. You can't destroy it. Many cantonment properties are also heritage properties. So you have a swimming pool there. You have all of these facilities there, gardens. So I think we get, because these permissions are given by the government itself, the local authorities. So it is a grey domain. I get, Abhijit, it's a decent argument to make. But again, I'm just putting a larger argument. If perpetual lease can be bulldozed this way, believe you me, investments will dry up in India. Nobody will trust the government on doing investments. And it's very scary to do it. And you're not a socialist. You don't believe in Lal Salam. You believe in Lat Salam.
I am a
Abhijit.
capitalist, I am a capitalist, which
You
is
believe
why
in the great Sander.
Yeah, that's true.
Yes.
I am a capitalist, which is why I believe that the property owner should have the right to take back their property in accordance with the law anytime they see fit. That said, can I just say, I think we're reading too much into the the membership at Gymkhana is very eclectic. It is not just elites. You will see Suzuki Espressos, which cost 6 lakhs, Desires, which cost 10, 12 lakhs, along with Mercedes and Maybachs, which cost upwards of, crores of rupees.
But
So
as in
it's
any
very-
parking lot, the ratio of those to the others, that's what you have to say. Now, there will always be a couple.
The ratio, no, actually not. The ratio is actually much higher in Delhi Golf Club
Acha.
than it is in Gymkhana.
Gymkhana.
In fact, the highest ratio would be a place called Chambers, which is a Taj Mansingh, which is where all the legal wheeler dealers meet, and you can't get in there unless you have a Rolls Royce or Maybach. Mercedes doesn't qualify you for membership out there, right? That said, the one that is really elite, which is being evicted, is the race course, the race club, where if you go there, you are free. For polo matches, wine, red wine, white wine, and sparkling wine are served free. I don't know if people know this. I don't think I should have said it on the program, because the next time there's a polo match,
You know who's going.
just to get that free wine. But you have to be in a suit. No Indian clothes allowed. You have to be in a suit, in a jacket, not a suit, in a jacket. And there is a very strict dress code out there. Nobody is talking about that club. Imagine you have to have a lot more money than for a Rolls Royce to own a horse in this country, realistically speaking, right? I think it is, we're reading too much into the government's intentions. I think if the government really wanted to take down a club, it would have been the India International Center, where Romila Thapar and co are members, than poor Gymkhana, where, Romila is not a member. So I don't think that is the real reason. I think the real reason will come out later. But just to put out a conspiracy theory out there, and I
Not you too. Kitni conspiracy theories
a
aayi hain?
pure conspiracy theory. This has been done. The aim is in the Gymkhana Club. The aim is the Cockroach Janata Party. Because the moment we started talking about Gymkhana,
That's what I said.
and everybody
That's what-
started, yeah. So it
That's
is
what I
entirely.
said.
It was a hit job. It was a hit job. Hit se mara
It was a hit
cockroach.
job, literally. It was a
job.
hit.
We got the joke. Just as
They
so
changed the
Gymkhana is
headline.
just the casualty of this narrative changing attempt by the government.
Yeah.
But just before we quickly end, Abhijit, one quick word. This whole thing of elites being, elites are not, people who are, other elites, people who are wearing, designer clothes, driving fancy cars. Or is the new elite, how today's elite in the last 10 years of the Modi government is a very different elite. They're the ones who drive with all the Guju number plates.
True, and they would not be caught dead driving a foreign car at any rate, not in public at any rate.
Yes, correct.
So,
Well said.
yeah, one last point,
This
if I
is the
may.
notion of elites and how they change across times, across decades, and across societies. I would say, in fact, the very fact that the Gymkhana is being served the notice would be the surest sign of its loss of relevance. It is the most counter-elite argument you can make if you take Yasho sir's explanation, because it means they clearly have no elitism left and no influence left on government, which is why they're being elected.
Well said. Pavan, last
One
point.
last point, if you'll allow me. You see, what all said and done, and all the arguments we've heard, it's a green oasis. It's a green oasis.
Yes.
Much like the Delhi Golf Club, which also occupies very expensive land and too much of it, because that's the nature of a golf club. But it's an oasis. A green, they're lungs of the city. I mean, all of Lutyens Delhi is compared to the rest of Delhi, but yes, it's part of that. And I know people. One of them happens to be your husband, who drives, Priya, who drives all the way from Noida to be there at a certain time in the evening just to watch the starlings circle the sky. Because that's the only space where they do it with such flamboyant.
I think I know who you're talking about.
To watch. So, I think we should spare the club and also spare things like Lodi Garden, which also take up too much space for too few people.
I know. Will Lodi Garden be next? We don't know what will be next if this, if this is the argument, too much space for too few people. That's really the mindset. In fact, just to end, I was just having this conversation on mindsets where I'm going to call you back again. Look at what they've done to the party offices. It shows a mindset. Early on, the party offices were in Akbar Road or Ashoka Road, where there was a sprawling one floor. You could walk in to meet whoever. If you couldn't, you could wait outside. Jab wo bahar niklenge, unse baat kar lo. Now, the BJP office is one tall building. You cannot get access to certain floors. You cannot meet the top leaders if you don't have the lift card. So the access is totally restricted. This is it shows the closed mindset versus open mindsets. That's the other argument, not really maybe for the club, but the kind of spaces that this government is attacking. But thank you all for this wonderful conversation. Thank you.
Thank you.
For more such videos, subscribe to the Newsx YouTube channel, hit the bell icon.